Okay, so again, hi everyone, welcome to our week 7 GM. Today we have the outreach committee taking over, so really excited to hear their presentation. First, we have some announcements. So for the winter GM, tentatively we have it Wednesdays 5 to 6 p.m. on Zoom again, but just to diversify our opinions, schedules, please fill out this when to me that we'll be sending on Slack if you have a different preference. And then education will be meeting Sundays 4 to 5 p.m., outreach Mondays 5 to 6 p.m. Sweet. So secondly, we have our fundraiser next Thursday and Friday of week 8. If Max is here, if you'd like to talk more about PR's fundraising event, I can continue on.
Yeah, of course. Can you hear me well, first off?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is like PR and we came up with like a little fun idea to get together and spark some team bonding. So we're gonna be baking next week, baking a bunch of cookies. So this is gonna be like Friendsgiving themed, like I don't know, fall colors. And so we'll be getting together. Feel free to come help out and join if you're interested. Just like send me a message. It's just going to be at my apartment. And yeah, we're going to be selling cookies on Bruin Walk Thursday and Friday next week. I'll be sending out a sign up sheet for those who want to sign up for a shift during those days to help sell cookies. Additionally, if you're not interested in a cookie, I just placed orders for hand stickers, which is going to be really fun. We get a showcase like what this org is all about. Put it on your water bottles, put it on your laptops. So those will be coming in soon. And you can also be a part of this fundraiser and buy some stickers. So yeah, yes. Yeah, so we have a graphic made for the fundraiser. We'll be getting that posted soon. So again, yeah, you can reshare as Tiffany was saying. And that's all the announcements I have as of right now.
Sweet. And thirdly, we have our very first social next Friday at Kirkup Hall, which is Kirkup Hall, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And be prepared for some food and fun games that Crystal has planned for us. So hope to see you all there for our very first hand social. Right, and then second page, first we have our shadowing committee launch. So Pauline and Shavia are looking for 5 active members to help with their program development. They created a short application, which will be linked on Slack if you're interested. And lastly, we have a brain cutting conference. So essentially, these are case studies. You get to hear from physicians and medical students and see, the actual brain. Maybe get to hold it if they let you. These are weekly sessions every Thursday at 9 a.m. at the Center for Health Sciences, Morgue, and be emailing this email over here to RSVP and to receive location information. So yeah, feel free to attend with your fellow hand members. It should be pretty interesting to see and learn. Alrighty, and that's all the announcements from me. So I'll pass it on to Robin and Justin for the lab tour.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Today, the Outreach Events Committee will be presenting to you all 2 virtual lab tours. So first up, now for our virtual lab tour presenters. First up, we have Robin Zhao, who's a 3rd-year biology major here at UCLA and is currently a member of Dr. Gopin's ear and skull-based lab, which he will be giving us a tour of today. The other virtual lab tour will be given by Justin Kwan, a 3rd-year UCLA student who's a microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics major and currently a member of the Bradley Lab. And Justin will also be giving us a virtual lab tour of this today. So before we move on to the lab tours, we want to give you some background information on clinical research. So what is clinical research? As shown on the slide, clinical research is a broad term that refers to research focused on furthering the knowledge of health and illness via human trials and laboratory techniques that investigate specimen samples. Examples of such research are broad and range from the recent COVID-19 human vaccine trials to investigations of human tissue and bone samples to determine the effects of various medicines on human physiology.
So one example of a clinical research technique is the CT scan. And the CT scan stands for the computerized tomography scan, which uses combined X-rays taken from various angles. These combined X-rays send many radiation beams as opposed to just one, which means that the CT scan will be more detailed than X-rays. It uses computer processing to produce 3D cross-sectional images, which is shown in the diagram, using the 3 planes. The CT scan is also pretty cool because it can capture soft tissue within organs as well as blood vessels and bone. So some examples where a CT scan would be useful would include like diagnosing cancer or spotting internal bleeding. And if you look in the middle, there's like an image of the 3 planes. So the coronal plane separates a body into like the front and the back side, and then the axial plane separates the body into upper and lower parts, and then the sagittal plane separates it into left and right. And then on the right side, there's just like an example of how you would use like coronal reconstruction to identify disease along like the lobes of the lung.
Oh yeah, hi everyone. My name is Robin, and today I'll be presenting my project on cochlear facial dehiscence and superior semicircular canal dehiscence.
To a Western blot in that it also looks for protein sizes. The main difference is, as said before, Western blot look for protein, the size of the protein, where immunostaining specifically looks at localization. So they tell you very different things, although both are looking for proteins. The general workflow of immunostaining is very similar to that of a Western blot in that first you have the sample and it has some sort of tag on it for the protein that you're looking for. It doesn't look for all sorts of proteins, or you get a lot of background. It looks very specifically at one protein that you're interested in. And so you would normally fix the samples with formaldehyde and then stain with this primary and secondary antibodies. So if you see this diagram here, let's say you have the purple protein is the one you want, you will engineer a tag in which the primary antibody will first bind to your protein of interest, and then a secondary protein with a fluorescent tag will then bind onto that primary. So this way, when you shine some sort of fluorescent light, your protein will now be tagged and will fluoresce with that whatever signal, that color you're stained for. Around here, you can see some examples of immunostaining. These are all neural tissues. Very popular immunostaining is DAPI. DAPI is specifically used to stain for host cell DNA. So it will make DNA glow blue, and that way you can see where the nucleus is in a lot of these cells. So if you go on to the next slide, I'll be presenting my research, which is identifying and characterizing novel proteins in the Toxoplasma gondii genome. At this point, I would ask that we would stop recording because my PI is a little bit sensitive with my project information.
This is the data that we found from the part of the survey where we asked what was stressing you guys out and what habits you guys incorporated in your day. And one thing we found interesting, or I personally found interesting, was that most people were happy with their grades, especially if you include the maybes. That's like pretty much 90% of you guys. But most of you guys are still stressed about classes and midterms, which I guess is typical for hand members. And then we also found that the majority is practicing basic habits like brushing your teeth, showering, drinking water, which is good, especially for hygiene, but less than half of you guys are eating breakfast in the morning. And later on in this presentation, we're going to talk about how to improve some of these habits and how they will improve your mental well-being.
Okay, to just start off like the main presentation, we're going to be talking about mental health and like what is mental health. So mental health is our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It pretty much determines how we handle obstacles, choices, and even like how we handle things like tests in our classes. It's really important in every stage of our life, and it's really important to check on it, especially every day, especially since we're students too.
So next we will be moving on to the stigma surrounding mental health as well as various perspectives. So the framework is that 40% of individuals with mental health do not receive proper treatment. And then stereotypes have led to individuals being reluctant to pursue effective treatments. There are many taboos surrounding mental health in several cultures, which leads to many people being afraid to even reach out for help, whether that's from family, friends, and even professionals. Moving on to cultural significance. An individual's culture has a large part of the perception of mental health. As we know, the environment that we grow up in has a large contributive aspect to our own personalities. Those with mental health illnesses are often looked down upon and not provided with the same opportunities as their counterparts. Moving on to societal impact. So individuals from various socioeconomic statuses face mental health issues in unique ways due to pressures from specific circumstances. So we know that our finances and everything like that can severely impact the resources that we have the ability to utilize. Moving on, media. Social media can create unrealistic standards, and then incorrect movie portrayals of mental health can further stigmatize mental health and create more taboos. And then as a result, individuals may be less likely to reach out. And then systematic. Many workplaces and school environments do not value mental health, which can lead to many being uneducated and unsure and not even know where to start when it comes to taking care of their own mental health. Next slide. So what factors lead to poor mental health specifically? So poor physical health and emotional distress, whether that is from work or not being able to take time out for yourself. And then having a negative outlook. If your outlook on your life has a large impact on the way your mental health is shaped. So it's really important to take time out of your day to reflect. And then lack of purpose. Do you feel like you belong, or do you have any symptoms of feeling like you're outed or something like that? So it's you really want to be able to find your purpose to be able to have good mental health. And then academic, work pressure and stress, whether that's from your school environment or feeling that you're not good enough. And then social media insecurity, as discussed before. Next slide.
So mental health is a very broad topic, and it really does encompass many areas of your life. But more specifically, there are some mental illnesses that we'd also like to cover today. So really common ones are anxiety and depression, where anxiety is a persistent fear about everyday situations, and it affects many people, especially in America, nearly 20% of adults. And a common sign of anxiety is stresses or worries that are not proportionate to the actual situation. Whereas depression involves persistent sadness and loss of interest. And there are many different types of depressive disorders, including clinical depression, bipolar disorder, and postpartum depression. So symptoms of both of these conditions often encompass physical symptoms as well, since everything is really connected. However, it's very important to really seek ways to treat these symptoms and the conditions, since symptoms of both conditions really improve with psychological counseling and or medication. Next slide.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about some ways in which you can promote mental well-being. But first, it's important to note that this list is not exhaustive and everyone takes care of their mental health differently, but these are just some strategies. So I personally find that every day, when I reflect on my day and I just think about what goals I've accomplished and what I still have to accomplish, that really helps me ground myself in my mental health. And exercise is also something that research has shown to be impactful on mental health due to the release of the endorphins. And it's also important because physical and mental health are really closely related. So taking care of your physical health will also improve your mental health. And nutrition is also shown by research to improve mental health. And it's really important to rest your body and get an adequate amount of sleep. And also